Okay, our next item is also Crescent Point Energy, the Leland Bench Archaeology and Paleontology under the category of best practices.
Okay, so the beginning slides again would be identical to what Cameron presented in the previous presentation. So we're going to fast forward to our Leland Bench Paleoarchaeological project. In 2014, Crescent Point commenced work to build a trunk access road into North Monument Butte, roughly sections 26 and 35 for south to east, across private surface owned by Deep Creek Investments. Also, Mr. Alan Smith, who provided the nomination for this project. As the civil surveyors were deployed to that area and began staking in this trunk road, one of our field foremen noticed some interesting boulders as he called into the office and said, you know, we've got stakes in the ground, but there's some funny looking rocks out there that look like they might have petroglyphs on it. The alignment of the proposed access road would require us to detonate some of these boulders in order to construct the road. But I think you might want to take a look at what's out here. It just seems like maybe it's something. The next day, I deployed SWCA archaeologists to take a look and better understand what this was on the boulders that he was seeing. It was determined through both curation as well as 3D laser imaging that these were not just maybe less important petroglyphs, but actually very important, very significant, and quite prolific in this area. A total of 11 rock art panels were discovered, archived, and again, 3D laser scanning. They cover a period from roughly 600 BC to 500 AD. Many early Paleo native tribes through this area, as well as some additional present day, I wouldn't call it rock art, but carvings in the rock from the late 1800s. This is a representation of what's visible to the eye, that slide or picture on the left, the archived drawings on the right, as well as the lower right image, the 3D laser scanning. Many times, because of the passage of time and the elements, the earliest petroglyphs are not visible to the eye. So the 3D imaging really helps to illustrate the age and what's truly there. Again, noting that this project was entirely fee, including the well pads that we were preparing to construct. There was no federal requirement for any type of avoidance or mitigation. When SWCA really helped us understand the significance of these petroglyphs, we decided it was important to take this to the next step and come up with a solution for dust mitigation, because this was going to be a very ground-intensive construction process. We came up with a method to suppress dust. Typically, dust suppression will utilize magnesium chloride, but magnesium chloride, when it becomes airborne, actually scours and becomes an accelerant to erosion for rock art. We had settled on using untreated water and lignosulfonate as suppression methods for, again, what was going to be a very ground-intensive construction. We were also able to push the access road to roughly 100 feet from the petroglyph panels. We would have preferred, and having experience on our federal lands, to have been able to at least reach 150, maybe even 200 feet avoidance. But due to the topography down there, we couldn't move the road any further to the south. So it was very important to come up with a creative solution for how to handle this. During construction, for the entire duration of the project, we had on-site cultural resource monitoring. They also integrated not only the monitoring of the petroglyphs themselves, but the dust management, and filmed it from various angles during detonation and groundwork. We have also, by doing this, established a baseline of data, and annually we'll go out and continue to monitor the 11 rock art panels to monitor for any type of degradation to those panels. If there is some sort of negative impact occurring, we will implement additional mitigations to preserve these panels. We've also installed remote security cameras because there was concern by building this trunk road into an area that was previously inaccessible by any real sort of traffic, that vandals would jump all over this, and we didn't want to see that happen. So we've installed remote security cameras that are monitored throughout the day, every day. When construction actually began, we were less than a quarter of a mile into it, and the dirt contractor noticed bones. Groundwork was immediately stopped. We called in PALEO resources to go out, again, take a look at what was it. Was it recent deer bones, horse bones, or did we have something more significant? It turns out we had something incredibly significant. A specimen of an early carnivore, Myasis, this last word really gets me, utensis.
Now, you can't leave till you say that right.
Thank you. I'll keep working. We might be here a while. Was discovered during construction. The only other known specimen of this particular early carnivore was documented again out here in the basin in 1894, and it was a less intact specimen. Our specimen had many bones. PALEO excavated, cleaned, labeled, and preserved those bones and presented them to Mr. Smith. They also recommended he consider donating those to a university for continued scientific research. The specimen dates back over 40 million years. This area is in reasonable proximity to other known world-class localities for paleo resources. Because of that, and again, the significance of these bones, Crescent Point has committed to conducting archaeological as well as paleontological surveys proactively on all of Mr. Smith and the adjacent landowner, actually Mr. Lamb, on their properties to make sure that as we propose development, we're being responsible and being cognizant for future generations of potential specimens that could be in this area. This slide represents the bones that were discovered. This is a presentation to Mr. Smith that Crescent Point had. Prior to this, Mr. Smith had shared with us that he had no idea that either petroglyphs or dinosaur bones were possible, even present on his lands. This is a portion of his family's property that had never been visited. So had Crescent Point gone ahead, dynamited these boulders, and just continued to bulldoze through the bones, he would have never known. But we believe in being a responsible, good neighbor, and we're glad to share this discovery with him and his family. In summary, Crescent Point, whether we're on federal lands or private lands, believes in working proactively with all identified stakeholders on any of our projects to ensure awareness of all resources. Our employees are empowered to take notice of their field observations, and if you're not sure or you think something's interesting, give us a call in the Denver office, and we're glad to make decisions forward, deploy the proper resources to evaluate anything that's been discovered. we definitely believe in being a good neighbor. So thank you.
Thank you very much.